It's the largest homicide investigation our city has ever seen, though back in 2003, alleged serial killer Bruce McArthur was convicted of assault after he attacked a male sex worker with a metal pipe. For weeks now, CityNews has been pressing Toronto police for more information about McArthur's previous convictions. They've remained silent, refused to comment, though tonight we have good reason to believe that McArthur's record may have come up clean when investigators began looking into him as a suspect in recent months. And according to one retired homicide detective, that can only mean one thing.
The only way he wouldn't have a criminal record for charges that he was convicted of is if he applied for and received a pardon, which is something that everybody can do after 5 years, if you're, except for certain offenses, but after 5 years you can apply to have your criminal record expunged, basically.
People at home might hear that Bruce McArthur was potentially pardoned and find that extremely shocking, knowing what we know today.
Yeah, and that's a great question to ask now, but when he was pardoned, he wasn't alleged to have been a serial killer, and that's quite frankly just the way the system works. A lot of us would disagree with that, but that is the way the system works, and he received a pardon, so even an initial criminal record check by the police on somebody like that would net nothing. There's no criminal record. They would get no information until they do what we call a deep dive and go much deeper into the archives to find out that, in fact, there were criminal charges. More disturbing, but back then at the time when
David Perry was the lead investigator into the disappearance and murder of 10-year-old Holly Jones back in 2003. He says the likelihood investigators did a, quote, deep dive on McArthur is slim to none. Perry says even if McArthur's previous conviction did show up, he would have been one of thousands of people Perry believes police were looking into. Now, as a result of his previous conditions, McArthur was slapped with a long list of parole conditions. He was banned from visiting large areas of the city, including right here in the Church and Wellesley Village. Now, McArthur was banned from being in the area of University Avenue to the west, Bloor Street to the north, Sherbourne to the east, and Carleton to the south. Some of his conditions included that he was not allowed to be in the company of any person known to be a male prostitute, not to purchase, possess, or consume drugs except in accordance with a medical prescription. All conditions, retired cop David Perry says, are next to impossible to enforce.
these things don't get published, they're not public, there's nothing that you can go to a website to see if somebody's on a condition. So again, the court imposes these conditions hoping that people will comply, and when they don't, generally speaking, the only way they get caught is when the police stop them and they find that they're in fact breaching them in some way.
Now, another one of McArthur's conditions was that he was not allowed to possess or use a drug known here on the streets as poppers, a muscle relaxant sometimes used before sex.